Hi everybody. Welcome to the Scannell Agenda. Today's date is October 4th, 2013. This is show number 6. And thank you very much to the Cape Cod Community Media Center here on Shad Hole Road. I left off the last show talking about this constitutional amendment proposed. And I just want to let you know that was worked out by a few people, including myself. I think I'm the main author. And it was worked out on a site called Get Money Out. But I want to put that on hold for a second. That'd be the most important thing America can do right now, is to get on the stick and clean up our system. Get the spick and span out, get some stiff brushes going, and do some cleanup work. We need to do some cleanup work. And I have here another system that I call the clean vote system. I mostly worked that out myself, but I presented it informally on to a chat room or a Facebook organization. That's called Black Box Vote. And those people mostly want to go to a hand-counted voting system. And I wouldn't be opposed to that. It does take a lot of labor. But I think worldwide, if somebody were to come up with a mathematically correct voting system along with the machines, more or less, and I don't know how to say this, foolproof. Of course, nothing is. Some fool's always going to get in there and try to mess with it. But the systems we have now are so shoddy. They can't be trusted, these Diebold company systems that you're relying on chips and computer systems and programs and the chicanery and the shenanigans with voting systems. We can't tolerate this. We cannot tolerate having voting systems that we don't trust. And over the years, I think the Rolling Stone magazine has done an excellent job of covering this issue. My system is a mathematical system in that your hand count checks your machine count, and then your machine count checks your hand count. So just like basic math in school. Okay, check it, make sure it's right. With this clean vote system, we can check it and make sure it's right, because we'll have standardized ballot counters and enumerators. And these will have a standard program, and you have to work with the standard program, and then it'll be sealed in the box. You won't be able to open it or get to anything, because that will be sealed, as in putting a seal on your tractor trailer truck so no one could get in or out without breaking the seal. That's very important. Once these chips are done and intact, and you wouldn't be able to mess around with it. Unlike the systems of today, they're very corruptible. Doesn't take a genius to get in there, and these computer people have gone in and rigged the votes very easily, very easily. How can we tolerate this? We can't. I hope we can't. So we need this clean vote system that I've designed. Now, when you have a machine that will count up, let's say, it could be for a very small town, 50 or 100 ballots, and it would deposit them in a sealed, clear plastic box. That box would come out, and it would go over onto a shelving system, which would be caged in and visible to the whole public, and you'd have people there, watching the ballots and making sure nobody could possibly tamper with them. And then this is what sets my system apart from any system. Then you would have an honored citizen of the community. It could be a child, or could be anybody. Could be someone from my clubhouse, or a special needs person of some kind. Now they would come in. This person would be totally innocent, and they would say, "Okay, pick that box." Pick that box and count that one and count that box. So there would be no way that you could rig the vote, because your well, I shouldn't say no way, should I? Say, whoa, hold on, because there always seems to be some angle, someone sharp. You know, but I'm trying to design this to be tamper-proof, foolproof, for the world, not just for the United States. But if we do this and we come up with this model and it works, and it's a mathematical voting system, a clean vote system, we can all trust it, geez, that'd be wonderful. So that's about it. It's a check the math type of a voting system, you know. All right. So now back to the drawing board here with this amendment. This is very important. Now for all levels of government. So this initiative, I think, should start on a town level, because I think townspeople can live with contributions to their campaigns locally and ballot questions locally shall only be made by individual non-compensated voters. All right, what that means is individual voters in the district, in the town. You can only contribute to, you know, campaigns or ballot questions in your own district, in your own town, in this case. And you can't contribute if someone's paying you to contribute. That means non-compensated voters. And, okay, now, on a state level, so if a lot of towns agree to do this constitutional amendment, and then it gets bumped up to more states and more state levels, and the people are hard charging about this issue, we don't want bribery in our politics. We don't want the bribery. Bribery. We don't want it. Thank you. You know, bring your box of jelly donuts elsewhere. Really, we're taking hit after hit by this situation. And it is a third-party situation. Both parties are being triangulated by money. And instead of the cream rising to the top, we have a lot of individuals in leadership positions that have risen to the top because they've been pushed to the top by unscrupulous money people, party hacks. All right. We just can't have it. We're going to go downhill. We're going to continue to go downhill unless we have this amendment here. We need the spick and span and some stiff brushes, right? This is the first thing we do. This amendment. Now the second part of this, all policy officials and staff are prohibited from receiving any favors, jobs, or pay, and this is local, state, and federal. This is a constitutional amendment. This is the new way of American politics where we rid ourselves, you know, 98% free of the bribery, hopefully. That'd be the goal, right? Now, no job, no favors, jobs, or pay from any other than taxpayer-funded sources. Does that make any sense? Or do we want everyone with a buck to come in and be heard in your district, in my town, in your district, congressional district? Everyone's going to rush in with all the money and all the threats. The money and the threats are like the peanut butter and jelly. The threats of, you know, you're going to get ousted. We're going to oust you. You don't line up. You're getting ousted. Now, let's say a congressman works for and has a person and he cares for a person and he's getting paid by an outside source. He wants the exception made, of course. You're not going to drop the person you care for, right? So unless the exception can reasonably, that's the key, reasonably be made by a board of ethics. And when I say board of ethics, we discussed this on the internet. And I was thinking this would have to be a judicial appointed blind, not, you know, so if there were questions about something going on in your state, you wouldn't have your state people on the board of ethics. You'd have a board of ethics that was basically made up of members who were totally disinterested and blind judges and people of the highest integrity. All right. So what do you say? Doesn't it make sense? Isn't that the highest and best use for America, to clean up, to get that spick and span going, and these stiff brushes, first of all? You ever been on a boat? And every once in a while, okay, everything's getting pulled out of everywhere. You're scrubbing everything down and washing everything down good and putting everything back and taking stock of what you've got, because you never know what's going to come up out on a fishing boat. Do we know what the future is going to be for the United States of America? I mean, we're being very silly. We're acting in this country right now like everything's going to be rosy forever and everything's wonderful, and we can allow all these briberies and jelly donuts to be part and parcel of our American way. And this kind of crept in over the years. Someone like me, who doesn't appreciate all the corruption, we're the worst hurt. I can guarantee you that. Your activists and your independent people that are trying to climb up the ladder in politics, let me just tell you, both parties will turn on you. These are the party hacks. The party hacks will turn on you, and if you're not with them taking the jelly donuts and with the bribery and all the corruption, and Massachusetts is probably one of the most corrupt states in the union. If you look at if you look at my case, and I can't even get a DNA test, that I should be able to get as basic evidence to defend myself against judges and against, corrupt government people. Can I put my finger on the establishment that is so corrupt? No, I can't. I can't do that. No, I don't think anyone really, I think anyone would have a tough job of that. And by the way, the country's full of drugs too. So we need to clean up. We really do. It's very frustrating to be a political activist in the United States of America right now in 2013 because of the pervasive jelly donut corruption, I call it. Everyone seems to have a box of jelly donuts for the other guy. Glad-handing, backslapping. It's not good. Our country needs to clean up. This amendment can do that. It's called the Scannell Amendment. You can call it the Get Money Out Amendment, too. It's a Get Money Out Amendment. That's what I've been calling it, because it gets money out of politics. And everyone seems to be saying, we got to get this money out of politics. And, this is the problem, the money in politics, the money in politics. We got to get the money out. Well, when you have a person who's been an activist all their lives, here I am with the amendment to get money out of politics. Now, there are reasons why you've got to do this locally and on a state level and on a federal level. You have to do it across the board. There are reasons why you have to do it across the board. First of all, it's just not going to happen on a federal level. You're not going to cherry pick this new way of life for our democracy and say, oh, well, we're just going to clean up our act. You can't do that. You have to have one system. Local, state, federal, because you've got people coming up the ranks, local to state to federal, and they need to be trained in the same system, that they're going to be in on a federal level. You can't have just a few tweaks on a federal level and states' rights. The people with the states' rights arguments are always going to be your establishment hacks that are going to come up with the states' rights business. And this was how it was with some of the other amendments. Well, anyway, there were a few amendments that I think the states' rights were big, like being able to tax your voters just to vote. What amendment was that? I'm forgetting that. But that was pretty recent. The states' rights contingent. Well, that's why I'm saying it's got to come up locally and then state. We have to agree on a state level, and then federal. It won't work if we start arguing this point on a federal level. Okay, a little bit more on the town nurse-based system. I've been doing a little bit of work on that. The boards of health and the town nurse-based will report to each other quarterly and question and answer public comment quarterly. So these structures are something I'm working on now. This is not easy to structure a town nurse-based system of social services. The question is to fix or replace basic social services structures. So I would say first, ask the small town Yankees, town meeting goers this question. And a lot of us may say, well, I should qualify that. I live in the town of Barnstable, and it's not a town meeting town, and I don't like it. I don't like that form of government. Town councils, you can go in there maybe for 2 minutes and bother people, and then they're not going to comment back. It's like nothing I'm familiar with. It's like a Boston power structure setup. I just don't like it. I prefer the town meetings where a person has a little bit more democratic authority. Cumbersome as it may be, I like it. Then get a good detailed answer from these particular voters. These Yankee town meeting people should drive this particular town nurse-based system, I'm thinking. And then conduct some actual special town meetings in New England or elsewhere. And then the standout communities that belly up to the bar and say, we can do this town nurse-based system, those are the communities where they will be probably chosen from a number of communities as pilots, as pilot communities for this new system, town nurse-based system. So that would be the way that this town nurse-based system would be implemented. I like redoing town meeting structures. For instance, I have something I've been working on recently here, and this is common for me to work on these kind of structures. 4 regional town meetings per year. This would be for a town like a larger town that things were getting cumbersome and they went to a different system, but a lot of people might miss the town meeting. Well, you could break things down and do 2 meetings in the fall and then 2 meetings in the spring. And then you'd carve out your general categories for what the articles would be about. And the meetings would be done in different districts. And so you'd have 4 meeting halls, just let's say, for instance, for a town of the size of Barnstable, which is a pretty big town. And then you'd have multiple communications controllers. They would share the speakers in real time. So you would have an actual town meeting, but it would be dependent on a lot of technology. And also the preliminary basic questions and answers would be done earlier. And so that you wouldn't have your typical few people tying the whole works up. Because, you know, you're doing 4 meeting halls with one structure tied in with the, the electronics. So you'd have 4 moderators, and then a master moderator would call up the vote. I really do believe in town meeting systems. And I think they can be tweaked to work in towns that are getting a little bigger, like Barnstable. So the issues that you'd have 2 town meetings in the fall, 2 in the spring. I'm thinking that may be ideal. And then you'd have your issues, your typical issues for the first fall town meeting might be your fire and police department issues. And then for your second fall meeting might be, a few other, the budget and the general budget and that kind of thing. So people could get a break from, these can be marathon meetings, to get the town's business done. So if you break it down to 2 meetings per year, 4 meetings a year, so people know what they're getting, and people are comfortable with the participation ethic and the participation mechanisms. But basically, we want to keep the town meeting structure if possible. This can also work in big cities, but that's another story. There there were a few other issues I was working on here. Now, that's the prison ribbon system there, a couple of things there. All right, this is what I was looking for here. Town nurse based. You got, this is like last week. I've been making strides here, as I call it. Once in a while I have a breakthrough. And I think that now, sometimes things just come into my head, and when I'm working on these projects. And I drew out a table. And at this table here, there's a 7-man board of your town nurses. And then you've got a moderator here. And then you've got 5 here that are appointed by the larger town nurse board. Now, what's going to happen if this works? It's going to have to be modeled up very well. And the modeling of this kind of system, using small town Yankees, in other words, New Englanders, or I don't know, maybe these can be people from Nebraska. I seem to be hooked on Nebraska. I don't know why. I think it's because Nebraska's a farming state and it's a Republican state, and Massachusetts is a fishing state and it's a Democrat state. So maybe that's what's got me charged up about going to Nebraska with this codfish apology. Now, your Yankees here in New England, see, I grew up in these town meeting systems, so I'm pretty sure that these would fit with our ways. You know, a lot of people grew up with town meetings, with these structures of town doing things. And probably a lot of us in these towns, you know, Nantucket, Harwich, the towns on the Cape, you know, I think Barnstable gave up its town meeting, but most of the towns have town meetings on the Cape. Now, so the thing I'm working on now is how to design the town nurse oversight board and how to get a board of governors out of that, because you can't have 25 oversight people actually interacting on any, you know, common sense level. You've got to kind of get the cream of the crop. And so that's why when I was using my imagination, I've got these 3 tables and a podium for the moderator. The moderator would be elected. And so I'm making great strides with this town nurse-based system. And it's really starting to gel, because this oversight board for the town nurse board, this town nurse board, oversight board, so you don't want to say board twice, so I call it town nurse oversight board. Now, these are the people that your regular town people could tie up the oversight board people, but you can't allow the town nurses to get tied up all over the place all the time with, you know, long conversations. These people have to be more or less like the doctors of the community, where they've only got so much time for each particular case. And if they're handling all the poor and disabled and all the social services and, children's services, elderly services, all the people helping people services are getting funneled through the town nurse board, you're going to have to really back up those people pretty good. So these are the backup systems. Now the moderator, what do you think the moderator's job is? Well, that's probably going to be a lawyer, and I've got that written up as to what the moderator's job is. That must be lost in my notes, but that would most likely be a lawyer. All right, and then maybe a 3-year term. We can't have these people scratching their eyes out. You know, if you have all these social services issues, and if you have a town nurse board of 7 people, you know, and they've got the authority to handle the poor and disabled. And then you've got 25 people in an oversight position, so-called. You got to have a moderator. This would be too comical if you didn't have a moderator, and a moderator who was a lawyer, and some legal staff, paralegals, etc. That would just be, it would just be too comical if you didn't have it structured right. All right? So I think this might be the right structure. Now you say, oh, 25 people, that's way too much. Let's pare that down. Instead of every year electing 5 people, you know, good citizens, maybe with a background in nursing, et cetera, et cetera. You know, let's just elect, let's select 3 people every year. So that's a nine-person oversight board. You know, well, I settled on 5 because on an average town level, 12,000 people, let's say. People do want to serve. People are qualified to serve. And you don't want people overworked. And then there are specialties that some people have. So the broader this town nurse oversight board is, well, then you can draw from those people. And then you've also got friends of town nurse. And that's another part of the structure, but it's unofficial. But it would be a major part of the structure, just as your school committees here are major parts of the education structure, and then you've got your friends of your, you know, school system, etc. So I'd be interested in hearing what some really good local statecraft people have to say about this. So the clock is ticking. Let's get on some of this stuff, shall we? I don't know how many people are watching this show. Not too many. I'm watching it. It's kind of pathetic. I do watch my own show. I guess when you get a little bit more schooled, you don't watch your own show, but at least I'm watching. It gives me a lot of satisfaction to know that at least there is the opportunity for the public to avail themselves of my work. I don't want to just go to my grave as being a welfare bum, not getting any work done. All right, thanks, Cape Codders. That's the Scannell agenda. We have a lot of work to do with all these issues here. Town Nurse Board, fisheries issues, and of course cleaning up America with this new Scannell Amendment. A lot of work to do. I can be pushed. Work me. Thank you.